Hey, how are you?
I'm okay. How are you? Sarah, did I tell you that I'm out next week?
Uh, Directly no, but you mentioned that you have that AC triple.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I'm not going to do meetings at all next week. I got to make sure Rydul knows that too. There he is. You guys are always first.
Huh, just a minute.
Hey, Rydul, I don't know if I told you that I'm out next week.
No.
I'm at AC Triple E,
Okay.
so I'm just not going to do meetings at all. The days look really packed. Like they start at 8:30 and they end at 9:30.
Yeah, it's fine. I may meet with Zara personally. If,
Okay.
like I should be able to finish integrating the building object model data to the ABM, and I just wanted to double check with Zara if I'm reading everything correctly, and then maybe yeah.
That's great.
Okay. Yeah, I'll send you an email to set up the meeting.
Hey, Chris.
Hey there.
And sorry, I had an idea for what we were talking about on Tuesday. I have more ideas for your work.
Oh, that's a great news.
I have your third paper in mind now.
So how many papers Zara will have to publish?
Zara will have to publish like 6 papers for all the things I want to do.
As much as possible.
Great. Yeah. That's true.
Hey, Ellison.
Oh,
Chris, are
hello.
you
Sorry, I think
getting
my mute
fire?
wasn't on.
Chris, are you getting fire smoke down there?
Not yet. We had no, we had hazy days, but bef before this fire more nearby. So not quite yet.
Not quite yet. Yeah, I don't know if you call this hazy. It's like more than hazy. What's more than hazy?
I don't know.
Smoky.
Yeah,
Purple.
we haven't had that.
So it must all be blowing north, huh? Or you're pretty far from the fire.
Yeah, when when there are big fires like the ones that were occurring in, Canada, Oregon, the haziness appears more than anything, and it certainly affects the air quality overall. But uh, as far as the most recent one, you're talking about the one out in Boulder County.
I don't know. Yeah, I think so. The Alexander Mountain fire.
Okay, yeah, no, we haven't really been impacted quite yet.
Okay, lucky you.
I know.
So I grew up in Southern California and I was accustomed to there would be mountains like 3 or 4 miles away and you couldn't see them. And that's pretty much how it is here now. It's really surprising because we're accustomed to having pretty decent air quality, but you can barely tell that there are foothills. Hello, Stacy.
Hi
Hello.
there.
So Ryan emailed me shortly before the meeting and said, "Oh, I'm not there." So Ryan's not there. And I think Narsim is coming. And are we waiting for anyone else? Christina, when is Christina back? Do you know, Kartik? Because she was marked out the last 3 weeks. But I thought she'd be back today. How are you, Stacy?
Okay.
How is Central Illinois?
Hot and humid.
Thank heavens for air conditioning, right?
Yeah. I love my heat pump. Oh my gosh, it is so dry in this house
Oh, man.
compared to the last house that I lived in. I was like, there's no humidity. I love it. This is a great system.
So if I remember right, you were choosing between getting a heat pump or not getting a heat pump, isn't that right? Or did I remember that wrong? That you were always going to get a heat pump?
When we bought this house, we knew we were going to.
Okay. Okay. I thought there was some question that you might not go electric.
No, there was a question if we would have gas backup,
Oh, and do
which
you?
we also chose.
Mm-hmm. There's Christina. Hey. Welcome back. Hiya.
Hello.
Hi. Welcome back. Nice to see you. Okay, well, I'm gonna get started. First of all, I don't have an agenda for next week, and I'm not gonna hold the meeting because Ellison and I will be or I'll be at ACEEE, at least, and they start, it would conflict with the conference. So if anyone wants to use the meeting for something else, that it's open, but I am not gonna organize something. We have a lot of things to talk about. Okay, so last week a few of us got on after we just received the news from NSF, still a little stung. And so what I want to get to today is, okay, at least now we have an end game. We know when the project will be over. People have varying amounts of support left, and I don't know what it is for the Yale folks. And I need to dig up what it is for us. But I'm guessing that the project should be over at the end of September, but we probably have a little money to coast on a no-cost extension until December. And so I'm thinking you're out of money, Stacy. Okay, goodbye.
Yeah. Sorry, I can't be on this call or any other ones
Okay.
going forward. No, that isn't what is going to happen, but the business office was very stern. They were like, you're out of money, right?
Yeah, that's okay.
And I was like, okay, whatever.
Okay, so at any rate, what I want to do is, how are we going to close this chapter? So when we were writing up the review, we kind of all said what we thought we were going to do within phase one. And so that's my working assumption, that we have support to do those things. And so maybe I just want to go around and hear what people are committed to finishing, so we know how this part ends. Eventually, we're going to talk about, we may get to it today, but I want to talk about, and then this is the thing that I really want to do. Now I no longer have support, but I have motivation. And those are the things that will carry us forward. So I think no, maybe I should start with, how are people feeling about this whole thing? Let's start with that a little bit. Yeah. Okay, this is the getting to know you. How? Oh, what are you thinking? Chris, we can start with you. Kartik, Sarah, Christina, Rydell. Allison. We shared a little bit about this last week, but it was fresh news. Now we've had a little time to process. Who did I miss? Chris, you can start talking while I'm figuring out Stacy.
Okay. I guess, yeah, what I'm thinking or feeling is that the support that they that was given to me allowed me to do the work that we had, sort of said we would do. And I feel like we're in a position to, get a couple products from that. I have been working on the first paper from that data, and Ryan's not here, but he was going to be working with me on that. And so I feel like we definitely have enough data to do that. I'm not as familiar with publishing in this particular area, which is where Ryan will be so helpful to me. But yeah, I feel like we can do the work, and there's a second paper I think that can come from that. So, and I don't need further support to accomplish that. So I don't feel personally to be in a tough spot just because we didn't necessarily plan on collecting more data from the residents anyway.
Mhm.
So yeah, I feel like we can still accomplish things. And as I mentioned, I personally didn't feel like don't feel like the support is as necessary as it was those first couple years.
And Chris, how just hey Narasimha, we're doing a how does the end game look? I was starting sort of with the getting to know you. Chris, I'm gonna prod you a little bit. So I think you've given a really good assessment of where you are with regard to product. Curious about your personal reactions to how that review came out. Like, did you have any response? I mean, I think a lot of people with disappointment, but I just want to also
Well,
just
yeah, a little bit,
reactions.
sure, a little bit of disappointment because I felt like the review, all the work that we, especially you, put into providing a strong idea about where we're at and where we wanted to go. I feel like the response we received in return was like a 30-second document that just said we think you could have looked at more. I don't. It seemed like there was, unless I wasn't reading everything, it seemed like they wanted something about solar panels. We never said we would look at solar panels, and yet they approved the study knowing that we weren't going to look at solar panels. So it was a little bit frustrating to me. In that regard, there was another comment that seemed to say that we were focusing only on heat pumps, which clearly our data showed that we weren't only looking at heat pumps. So I think that I was a little bit disappointed in what I considered to be a very half-assed review of our work.
I'm not even sure there was half an ass in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thanks. Kartik.
Yeah, I think I would use the word belaboring the point about solar panels. I think they should have just brushed past it or whatever, but they just kept digging at that. I don't think it was worth it. And I think, yeah, we did so much more. And yeah, so definitely disappointed, but I guess we knew the odds are not that high regardless. So yeah, it is what it is at this point. Yeah, I think for me personally, yeah, I think it's a good opportunity for me to like lay the groundwork for what's probably coming ahead. So for me personally, I'm wrapping up the work, my personal paper, but I think we've also laid the foundation for the modeling team to take the data and the findings to continue working in that direction. So yeah, I'm quite satisfied with that aspect, as in there's a long lasting, I guess, legacy as such that we can take forward. So
Yeah, cool. And I think I'll come back to everyone with specifics on what we commit to doing in this project phase before we close it out. And then, of course, we're gonna figure out how to capitalize on this stuff if we want to continue working. And I don't assume that we do want to continue working together. I hope that we do, but it's a good opportunity to re-choose, recommit or not commit. Zara, thoughts, reactions.
For me, it was an interesting concept, and I'm really disappointed why they didn't choose to continue this project. It's really a multidisciplinary work and would have some framework for other peoples to continue research in that area. And about the products, I learn a lot through working with the framework, well-being framework with Dr. Carter, and it should be completed. And there is the building object that has a lot of potential, I believe. And for now, the outputs should be adjusted in a way that ABM can use it in conjunction with the Kartik's work.
Christina.
I'm feeling okay. I think I learned a lot throughout the process anyways with the review, and just like the call itself was very interesting to me. It's a little bit frustrating because I do feel like it might have been a communication issue or something, because I think we do discuss things much more broadly than just heat pumps. We have discussed adoption of solar panels in one of the modeling meetings for sure, and also about EV adoption. So we do have these like broader discussions, even beyond specific technologies, about modeling approaches more broadly and so on. So I feel like that's a bit frustrating, because I do think we cover those things that they were criticizing.
Who's next? Raidul, yeah.
Yes, for the review, I feel that we talked about this before. They were just cherry picking things to me, like they didn't go through the video or the report that we have put together, largely focusing their discussion based on what we talked about during the 1 hour or 40-minute discussion. That's kind of my disheartening thought. Product-wise, I'm relatively new, but I agree with Kartik and Zara that I believe that we are getting there. Of all the meetings we have done so far for the modeling discussion, I think we are close to our dream, but what I am concerned, not concerned, but yeah, disheartened is that after the last in-person meeting we had so many bright ideas, and I'm really looking forward to see how the momentum goes on those topics. As a postdoc, I'll be really excited to take part on those exciting endeavors. But yeah, that is kind of my personal feeling. Thank you.
Cool. Stacy. Oh no, Ellison. Ellison's next.
Okay, I feel like Zara expressed that the project that we've been working on with you is worth completing and can be completed by December or within this calendar year. And I'm motivated to do that.
And you want to share any reactions? I know we talked about it this last week, but now that we've had a week to think about it.
Oh, okay. Yes, sorry. I felt like I talked
That's
a
all
lot last week, so I didn't.
Talk again. We like to hear from you.
I mean, I actually really appreciate Chris's perspective. I think I share a lot of the same view. I think they spent very little time considering what was presented. And unfortunately, I find that to be a flaw at a much larger systemic level in how like I imagine their incentive structures don't really incentivize them to look deeply at what we put together and did. And I find that to be an unfortunate, like what they gave us as a response to me just reinforces my my current mental model of how some research gets funded in the US at least. So I found it really disappointing. Not really so much that we didn't get funded, just disappointing that they didn't have a good case for why we wouldn't progress. Because I think there's something we could have learned from, they had, I don't know, 15 people on that call with us. That's a lot of people with a lot of perspective and experience that could have been really nice to harness and learn, like, what could we do better? How could we have more impact? How could we have more influence? But I think I really only came through with like, why don't you know more about solar panels? I just think it's dumb. Anyway, I don't know that I've changed very much, Tammy, from last week.
That's all right. I just, sometimes I always have a instantaneous reaction to reviewer comments, like even on papers, and then sometimes it gets tempered over the month that you have to respond, which is a good thing.
Yeah. I don't think they had much substance. There wasn't much there.
No.
Yeah, I think usually initial sting of a review I can work through, and then if there's a lot of richness to what was provided, then I can learn from it, but there's not much there. It really looks like they wrote for 5 minutes after our call, didn't look at the video, didn't read the report, and that's what we got, which I just feel like that's really disappointing. It could have been a lot better feedback, even if it didn't mean progressing forward with funding.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Stacy, thoughts? You're out of money, so you don't have to talk at all.
I don't think I have much more to add on the conversation about the reverse site visit. Really agree with what has been presented so far. Another aspect that I've been thinking about overall with the project, like in terms of like its management over the last 2 years from NSF, not internally on our side, but it just strikes me that there's been very little communication with a project manager, no relationship really there to speak of, at least that, hasn't really come through. And I can't help but think, just based on the other projects that I'm involved in and the way I see other things go, and again, never with NSF, like I have no experience with NSF. So like, this is like the first experience with an NSF grant that I'm on. But based on others, that relationship with the grant manager is so important and useful. And I'm not saying that like I would blame a grant manager for not doing, you know, like not doing their, well, I would. I just, what are they, I haven't formulated it very, very well. I think there are red flags from the beginning that show the lack of interest, the lack of response to reporting, the lack of answers to questions from the grant manager, that I'm not sure that I could have expected a better or different outcome from the reverse site visit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So Stacy, I'm gonna follow up with you on stuff, because even if you're out of money, I think what the things we were talking about are really important.
Okay.
Yeah, and so we'll have to do it in our off hours.
Which are still my on hours.
I
It's
know.
fine.
Yeah, so I'm next, and Narsima, you you're not on the list, so you can be at the end. I've of course had more time to think about it. It was really good that I had agreed to volunteer at a race the weekend after, so I just went and I was out of cell reception, and I realized how rare it is for me to see the Milky Way. Like I went back at the mountains and I'm like, why have I not seen the Milky Way for a year? Something is wrong with my life. And so that was really good to be just checked out that weekend and just like work hard. Like I was on soup detail for 11 hours straight. Um, and so it's always nice to be reminded that, you know, that what we're doing is important and it has impact in the world, but a lot of it isn't real, you know, it's just, so that was a good, I think, interlude for me. Couple things that occurred to me. First, maybe I can focus in on what we could have done better. I don't think we could have done better at preparing the review. But our team, our side at CSU, not Narsima's side at Yale, it took us a long time to get staffed. And I think that's normal. It's Raidul and I talked about this. It's very hard for me as an engineer to get students that are appropriate for this kind of work. And it's also hard to find postdocs that are suitable for this kind of work. So we weren't really staffed for almost a year. That says to me that this grant is not meant to be growing convergence. It's meant to be, you should already be doing the work. So that's one thing. I regret that it took that long, but it's not like we weren't trying. Let's see, other things. And it took a while, I think, especially on the QT side, to just decide how to structure it. And I think that is real, that we should have done that. Right? But I do remember a bit of flailing, and I hope you don't feel criticized of like, exactly what are we doing and how are we going to make this work? And to me, doing justice to that process is a really important part. But again, it seems clear that that is not what they want. Nevertheless, they did provide support so that we could do that, even if they did not value it. It also struck me that they reviewed this not as did we do what we said we were going to do, but it was almost reviewed as a new grant. Like, do we think you should be doing what you're doing? Which is super weird, right? And if they had told us that, I would have approached it differently too, right? And so I don't know about that, but that's the kind of review that happens. Like, oh, not the kind of socio-technical change I want to see, so we're not going to fund this grant. So that, yeah, it did. I didn't see anything there that looked like a review of progress. It looked like a proposal review. And then I guess the last thing is I agree with Ellison about that we've known that the process at NSF is quite random. What I did not tell you people when we were working through the review is that I had done the analysis on who got funded and refunded, because this is all public information, and I don't know if any of you looked at it. The refunding rate is 20%, and nobody who had been putting models together had ever been refunded. And so I didn't say that because I didn't want anybody to be discouraged. But I'm like, we're gonna run at it. Let's see. But I think that as people have observed, the program is not set up to support and reward that kind of work. And so I guess that everything y'all have said is correct. And this is going to sound harsh, but I see that process as like the absolute worst of colonialism. You know, like careless, disrespectful, and assuming that just because you have a certain position, you can make judgments on everybody else without thinking about it. Why a national agency would promote that kind of practice is beyond me. I think it's a waste of taxpayer money. Stacy pointed out the lack of communication from the program manager. Our progress report from last year has not even been approved. I don't even know if that person exists. I think they are just phoning it in, which is sad considering that the entire agency is dedicating a lot of its large dollar resources to what should be considered convergence. And there is no accountability to achieving convergence. I mean, all of the things that they promote were not reviewed. So I probably won't do this, but I have in mind that after we get the last dollar from that program, we can send them a review of their likelihood in achieving convergence, and my ranking would be poor. And it would be very well justified. So that's yeah, those are some of what I thought. I think we've done good work. I think we did go slowly and carefully. That maybe was not rewarded. I think that you rarely have a chance to go carefully, and we should leverage that in our future work. So Kristen, do you want to say anything, or do you just want to watch?
I'm just watching today. No comment.
Narasimha, you can close out the review.
venting.
The review.
The venting review. Yeah, so I mean, of course, sorry, my voice is messed up. Hope you can understand me. I agree with everything that's been said. And what I would add is this, to me, was a flaw in program design. I mean, I understand that they a priori had decided they are going to refund a limited number of projects. So in that situation, I take their substantive criticism with a grain of salt, because they're going to look across the projects, those 10 projects, and they want to refund only 3 or 4 or something. And they're going to get a relative sense of which group they think is going to make more of a mark in the future or something. So they decided our group wasn't on the top 3 or 4, and they threw in some quick comments that some of the reviewers put in. And I just think for some experimental, deep integrative work like this, you can't have this kind of process where you review, and make the rest of the funding contingent on a positive review after 18 months. And of those 18 months, you've done 15 months of work, because then there's 3 months you're working on the review itself. And I would have preferred that they approve you for the whole time and they have a serious review at this point to give you collective feedback, constructive collective feedback, based on all of their expertise, like someone else was saying. So yeah, I just think it's a flaw in program design. It's unfortunate. In any case, I mean, I think I did benefit from this project a lot, the work we did and the relationships with all of you. I do plan to submit the modeling review paper. Karthik's very close to finishing his basic needs and well-being paper. Both Christina and Jean-Wei, I very much want those 2 papers to go forward and complete by the end of the calendar year. And whatever publications you're working on that I may be part of. So I think it's been productive. The thing that I would lose out from not having the second phase of funding is to not do the data collection that I thought would be really useful. Systematic, big, larger end data collection, which means I don't think we're in a position to do more model development, really. I don't think we have the empirical basis to do good new models. So I just feel disappointed about that. And I don't feel like investing a lot of time in more model development without more data. I know Tammy will have disagreement with that, but of course I want to discuss that. Of course, tinkering with NEMS is certainly something, and I think Raido's ABM has a lot of potential. It just has to be framed a different way now that we can't do more data collection. But I'm just talking about my personal preference. Other than that, I think that's it.
So if I could follow on one thing Narasimha said, I actually thought the process of self-questioning after a couple of years, I thought that was really useful. Right. I think and having that level of scrutiny, or what we thought was going to be a certain level of scrutiny, didn't turn out to be the case. But the self-imposed need to justify and revisit, I thought that could have been really great. But I left our in-person meeting, and then after our and after the products that we put together, I felt like we had gone through a really good process of proposal development that you never really have time to do. And so I feel like there's some groundwork there. I don't know who would be up for seeing what we could go forward with. But I think we did a level of work that does not usually happen. And so I appreciate that. It is too bad that NSF does not know how to use the mechanism that they created to produce interesting outcomes. But like, we might know how to use it, right? So let's go with that. Yeah, okay, so for the last little bit, I want to take maybe the products that we identified. We had a list of 8 papers or so that we presented. And I'm taking that as my phase 1 premise. If anyone wants to say, no, I don't think I'm going to get that done, or I'm so disappointed, I'm checking out now, or whatever, I want to hear that. I want to hear deviations from what we think we agreed to, so we all know what to expect. So maybe we can go in the same order. And Chris, you were first, but you've kind of already spoken about what you think you'll do with the papers. But I'll give you a chance to weigh in. And does anyone need to be reminded of what those were? It's been a while.
Yeah, I don't really have much to add beyond what I said earlier. I think both paper ideas I had based on the data that was collected from the interviews, I think there's still, you know, things that can be worked on, and the first paper, you know, the way I've been working on it more or less is just almost the reverse process in which I would normally write a paper, but you know, I still think those are very doable.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty close to finishing my paper. I would say the timeline of weeks, hopefully by the end of the month. And I'm committed to contributing and providing support to Rydell's work till it's done. So
For me, I follow the schedule with my collaborators, Rydell and Alison, and you.
Yeah, my plans haven't changed. I'm still working on the paper, hopefully finishing soon. And of course, it would be great if those results would still kind of feed into other people's work. I'm not sure that's doable in this situation now, but yeah, let's see.
Yeah, I was reading the modeling paper, and as I was saying, I think we are progressing faster. So I'm expecting to have a draft within a month or two. Yeah, I think, yeah, something like that.
I don't think I have much more to say. I'm focused on getting that paper done within the calendar year. I think that feels doable.
I'm not really sure what has to happen on the like outreach, community outreach side of things. I know that the in-person meeting is coming up soon in August with the Healthy Homes Coalition. So I think sharing out there is great, and ACEEE, and if you all still have plans for attending the New Orleans HPC conference. So I think that like it can help answer some questions if you have them, or provide ideas about how to get people in the room. So happy to review stuff like that, continue helping there. Also, if anyone would like, and kind of since I haven't read the papers, I'm not really close to them. If anyone wants like a review or would like someone to edit that, I'm happy to help take a look and provide comment on areas for clarification or wherever, or add information about like local organizations if that's important, or if you need definitions about like weatherization programs or something like that, if that's in the paper anywhere. So happy to provide information.
And Stacy, you had mentioned sometime during the review process being involved because of your role in assembling people to comment on the interview script. I think you're not getting, or you should be more involved in possibly a co-author on that paper. And
I would
so,
like to be, yeah. If
don't be afraid to step up and say, hey, I want to be on that.
Yeah.
That's legitimate. So
maybe Chris and I can work together on that. That would be great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so I am interested in doing, I'm interested in completing the work that we said we would. I think one concern for me is I thought the well-being overview that we had been working on and the well-being powwows are things that I would not have done if I hadn't felt I was tasked to do them by an ambitious project. And I feel like they're worth doing. I'm afraid of losing motivation for that, or not losing motivation. I always will think it is a good idea, but sometimes it's the project that puts a little fire under you to get it done. And so I'm afraid that won't happen. And so I'm going to try to figure out ways to keep myself motivated, but that's a fear that I have, that I think we are beginning to make progress on something that really needs progress. So there's, so that's an issue. Other than that, no, I'll let Narasimha go. If you want to say more on where the products are, I think you've already commented on that, but go ahead.
Yeah, so I would just add, based on your last comment, that I would be happy to support you on that. I think we should plug away at it. I think we should be open to thinking about where it leads and making it more of a, applied theory kind of thing. Like, how can we use this framework and improve it to make it useful and see how it goes and really focus on getting to operationalization. So I don't mind letting it simmer, and I don't feel like we need to finish it by December. But the substantive contribution I think is there. There's a real potential, and I'm happy to work with you on it. And
Yeah,
besides that, yeah, the other products I already mentioned.
yeah, okay. Thanks, everyone. I know it feels like we thought of some really ambitious things and important things, and we laid some of the groundwork. And I just want to get everybody thinking on, we have a lot of, if you consider what we did, preliminary data for a project, we were granted the opportunity to develop a lot of work that people would not usually have. So I thought that what we were proposing was valuable, and I still think it's valuable. I don't think that has changed just because we had a review panel that was populated with people who did not know how to review. And so I would encourage us to think about, what have we developed that is a demonstration of something that can be done? Christina, you said something about, I'm not sure that it can now feed what we're going to do in the future. In contrast, I feel like people never usually have the array of perspectives that we brought to bear on that problem. Your longitudinal work, the statistical work that Kartik has done, and the challenge of how those never really occur at the same time and are used to triangulate on the problem, that itself is a project to me. And so I think one of the nice things, if you can call it that, about not having a large project refunded is it might push us to identify small and explainable projects that nevertheless have a lot of convergence behind them. So I will just encourage us to think about that in the coming weeks. I'm starting to think that way already. Like Raidul and I had a conversation about a project or a proposal he could lead, and he framed it in terms of algorithm development. And I'm like, yeah, why are we burying a deep algorithm development in a project that needs to converge? So maybe we can start picking out these little threads and getting them supported explicitly and separately. So yeah, disappointing, but nobody knows how to do convergence, and we can kind of see why it keeps not happening, right? Because people don't know how to review it. But then the people who do know how to do it, who are beginning to see how it can be done, and I think we did achieve that. We began to see how it can be done, right? It's a swamp full of alligators, and we began picking our way through it, and we killed a couple of alligators, and there's 100 more left, right? Poor alligators. I don't have anything against alligators. I just don't want my feet chopped off. Sorry, I'm rambling here. Anyway, I feel like we did make some progress in our little in our little wooden rowboats or whatever, getting across the swamp. And it's still progress, people. So let's capitalize on it, because I think everybody has some amount of vision about where we need to go. And the fact that other people don't share it doesn't take that away. So I would like to continue Friday meetings for a certain amount of time, not indefinitely, while we are calling the project operational. I hope everyone is okay with that. And I would say that's something like max end of December. And during that time, other things can grow out of it. Y'all okay with hanging out?
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Oh, Narasimha, you weren't here at the beginning, but I'm not standing up a meeting next week because I'll be at ACEEE. And I'm going to go to sessions, or I may not, but I'm just not going to commit to having a meeting. If anyone wants to use the time, just say so. Okay. Have a good weekend. Bye.